All right, we're about to dive into one of the most epic stories you'll ever hear. It's a journey that goes from a forgotten sheep pasture all the way to the throne room. This is the story of a guy who was a shepherd, a king, a warrior, a poet, and, well, both a sinner and a saint.
So that's the big question, right? How in the world does that even happen? It's a story packed with hidden potential, some pretty devastating failures, and a destiny that was way, way bigger than just one man's life. So let's get into it.
So, our story kicks off not on some grand battlefield or in a fancy palace, but out in a quiet, kinda boring sheep field. And it's right here that the most unlikely person you can imagine gets chosen for the most important job in the entire nation.
So meet David. He's the youngest son, the afterthought. The one who's literally left outside with the animals, not even considered important enough to be called in when a major prophet comes to visit. But here's the thing. Out there, he wasn't just counting sheep. He was fighting lions and bears, building up this incredible courage and a deep, unshakable faith.
I mean, seriously, have you ever felt that feeling of just being on the outside looking in, where you know you've got something to offer, but nobody seems to notice? Yeah, David knew that feeling really, really well. And this is where everything changes. The prophet Samuel looks at all of David's tall, strong, impressive older brothers, and one by one he says, "Nope, not him either." See, God was looking past all that. He was looking at the heart. He calls for the forgotten kid from the fields, and in this totally shocking moment, this shepherd boy gets anointed as the future king of Israel. Okay, so fast forward a bit. The entire nation is just paralyzed. For 40 straight days, this terrifying giant named Goliath comes out and just taunts Israel's army. And every single warrior is shaking in their boots. The air is just thick with fear. And this wasn't just some small challenge, it was a full-on national crisis. The most experienced soldiers, the leaders, even the king himself, everybody was just frozen, terrified. The whole country was being held hostage by one guy's threats. And then David strolls onto the scene, just delivering lunch for his brothers. But he sees what's going on, and he's not having it. He doesn't just hear a challenge, he hears an insult to his God. He turns down the king's heavy armor and walks out there with only what he knows, a simple sling, 5 smooth stones, and that incredible faith he built up in the wilderness. One stone, that's all it took. The giant falls, and in that one moment, an unknown shepherd boy becomes a national hero. The big takeaway here? That moment that looked completely impossible, well, that was actually the very doorway to his entire destiny. But, defeating the giant wasn't the happily ever after part of the story. Nope, it was actually the beginning of a whole new set of problems. This next phase is all about trying to handle fame, betrayal, and a huge test of character. All of a sudden, David is a superstar. I mean, people are literally singing songs about him in the streets. Saul has slain his thousands, but David has slain his tens of thousands. And all that praise, which was meant to be a good thing, planted a really dangerous seed of jealousy in King Saul's heart. And here's where it gets so interesting. You have 2 people looking at the exact same hero and having totally opposite reactions. King Saul, eaten up by paranoia, saw a rival that he needed to get rid of. But his own son, Prince Jonathan, saw a friend and the real future king, and his heart was just filled with loyalty. Saul's jealousy got violent. He started trying to kill David, forcing our young hero to literally run for his life. For years, he was a hunted man, hiding in caves and deserts, leading this ragtag group of outcasts. And this is where we really see who David is. Twice, not once, but twice, he has King Saul totally cornered. He has the perfect chance to kill the guy who's hunting him and just take the throne. But he refuses. He won't harm the person God appointed. It just proves that who you are, your character, is so much more important than any opportunity. So after years and years on the run, David finally becomes king. But this next chapter shows us something really important. The biggest battles we fight aren't always against giants out there, but against the weaknesses inside our own hearts. And his reign started off just brilliantly. I mean, he was an incredible leader. He united a broken nation, he made Jerusalem the capital, and he stayed this humble worshiper, famously dancing with pure joy before God, not caring who watched. But right here, at the absolute peak of his power, the story takes a dark, tragic turn. David commits adultery with a woman named Bathsheba, and then, to cover up his sin, he arranges for her loyal husband to be killed in battle. The hero who defeated a giant
was now defeated by his own desire. He didn't just stumble, he fell, hard. When the prophet Nathan confronts him, David doesn't make excuses. He doesn't try to defend himself. He just completely breaks. This quote right here is his raw, honest prayer for forgiveness, and you can read the whole thing in Psalm 51.
And this is probably the most powerful lesson from his darkest time. David's story isn't about being perfect. It's about what you do after you fall. It's about having the guts to own your failure and turn back to God with a sincere, broken heart.
So, after all the winning and the failing, the running and the ruling, what's the final takeaway? What was David's true legacy, really?
In the end, David's life wasn't defined by his accomplishments. It was all about his part in a much, much bigger story. He's famously called a man after God's own heart, not because he was flawless, but because through every single high and every single low, he never, ever stopped chasing after God. And this was the ultimate point of it all. Through the family line of this flawed, imperfect, but repentant king, the promised Messiah, Jesus Christ, would one day be born. David's messy, very human story was a critical piece in a perfect, divine plan.
So when you think about that overlooked kid in the field, just remember this. Your beginning does not define your destiny. The potential that maybe other people don't see in you, God sees it.
And when you think about his biggest, most catastrophic moral failure, remember this powerful truth. No mistake you've made is too big for God's forgiveness and restoration. The story of the Shepherd King is just this timeless reminder of hope, of purpose, and of the incredible power of a second chance.
Thanks for watching.
Stay blessed and don't forget to share this video with everyone.